And here we go! The Leafs have made a trade! Let's lose our mind. Every year this seems to happen. The trade deadline is just kind of a, are you gonna go? Are you gonna go? And after weeks of, I don't know, should I go? One team makes a trade. And everyone at the same time goes, oh God, we gotta make a trade. How didn't we see this coming? And I hear people talk about the trade deadline being dead. No, the trade deadline is just moved. To me, it's actually more exciting because there's the actual trade deadline, like the day 3 p.m. drop dead time. But these days, the trade deadline is just some random mystery day that teams around the league just seem to pick amongst themselves. So on paper, the 2017 NHL trade deadline is March 1st. In reality, it's apparently February 26th and 27th. Shut up, Steve. What happened? Fine. The Leafs acquire Brian Boyle from the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for a conditional second-round pick and Byron Froese. The Leafs have 3 second-round picks in their possession right now, but in reality they have one. One is a conditional second that the Leafs sent to the Ducks in the Freddie Anderson trade. The Ducks get the middle of the 3 picks that the Leafs have. In this Brian Boyle trade, the Lightning get the best second-rounder that the Leafs have. Keeping in mind, though, that the 3 seconds the Leafs have belong to the Leafs, Sens, and Sharks. If all 3 of those teams make the playoffs, and believe me, I hope at least the blue one does, those picks should be somewhere between, I don't know, 45th and 52nd overall, something like that. And for those of you worried about the Leafs mortgaging their future, keep in mind the Leafs also have San Jose's second-round pick in 2018. So, while the Leafs are a rebuilding team, and rebuilding teams should keep their picks, the Leafs have picks to give. And if it makes you feel a little bit queasy, like the Leafs are kind of deviating from their path, don't worry, you're not alone. And Byron Froese, bit of a sad story. Kind of sad to see him go. I mean, I say it's a sad story, but it's actually a bit of an inspiring one. He was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks and fell right off the radar. He was in the ECHL, down and out, but Toronto Marlies swoop him up and he joins them and ends up being pretty good, really good. You know what? Let's sign this guy to an NHL deal. So that's what the Leafs do. He plays with the 2015-16 Toronto Maple Leafs that ended up in last place, but he was in the show. This season he has got a couple cracks at the NHL, but he's mostly been with the Toronto Marlies in the AHL, where he's been lighting it up. And there's been talk about how the Leafs wanted to improve at the 4th line center, which they obviously did in this trade, but they wanted to improve at the 4th line center, and I'm like, phrase! But Babcock wants a guy that's really good at face-off, someone who he can use on the penalty kill, and he didn't feel he could do that with Froese. Froese was never going to get a shot with this Leafs team. I hope he succeeds with Tampa. I mean, not that much because they're in the Leafs division, but I hope he finds happiness, you know? So now, who do the Leafs get? Brian Boyle. Before we talk about what this means, let's just talk about Brian Boyle. Based on every Mike Babcock quote I've ever heard since he came to the Leafs, Brian Boyle is essentially his favorite player, I think. A big, huge center with tons of NHL experience who kills penalties and is good in the face-off dot. And I mean it, he's huge. This is going to be Brian Boyle's first on-screen appearance with the Leafs. Yeah, you know, I'm real happy to be here, and it's, it's just about getting adjusted and getting to know the system, but I think we're a strong team. Thanks, Brian. Back to you. Acquiring Brian Boyle might fix the biggest problem on the current Leafs roster, which is 4th line center. Ben Smith struggled at the beginning of the season, but he was there. And then he gets hurt. And Freddie Gauthier comes in, and he struggles a bit too, with some nice flashes, but ultimately not exactly the answer that the Leafs need. Yet, anyway. And then Ben Smith comes back from injury, and whoa. That whole face-off thing went away, and even Babcock said, no, enough of this, and called up Goat again. Then in comes Brian Boyle, who is the best parts of both Freddie Gauthier and Ben Smith, combined with veteran experience and more offense. Brian Boyle has 100 NHL playoff games to his name. That's kind of crazy. And as pointed out to me on Twitter, over the last 3 years, Boyle has 67 playoff games under his belt. Seriously though, 17 games, 11 games, 25 games, 25 games, 17 games. This guy only goes deep in the playoffs, apparently. Now, whether or not that's because of him is besides the point. He was there. He's got the experience. Who are the veterans that the Leafs got? JVR, Bozak. How much playoff experience are they going to tell the young guys about? Matt Martin's been like the dad of this team, but even him, playoff time comes around and it's on Boyle to be like, all right, so here's what's going on. It's one thing for Babcock to do it. You also need some players who can do it too. So what does this all mean? Most importantly, this means the Leafs are trying to make the playoffs now. And I think Leafs Nation might be a little divided on that, because this does not match the behavior of a rebuilding team. But what have we been saying all season? Even when the Leafs run their hot streak and then they go on their cold streak, the Leafs are better than expected. But what have we been saying? Well, if the Leafs make the playoffs, that's great, but if they don't, it won't break my heart. Okay, now it will be disappointing. Now I will be mad. Now it will be a straight up failure if they don't even make it. So, no pressure or anything, but you better make it! And you know what? I don't even know if it's good enough to just make it. You gave up a second? would really like to see you reach at least the second round then. But alright, consider this. Look back at the Penguins, like when they were much younger. Look back at the Blackhawks when they were much younger, pre-dynasty. They had early playoff runs that were ultimately unsuccessful and ultimately not that long, but they were there. If the Leafs are building something truly great here, I think it's important for them to get in the playoffs as soon as they possibly can. It's different. I don't know if there's any numbers that prove it, but it's different. It's harder, it's tiring, there's so much pressure, the refs call games completely differently. You need to get a little taste of that. It's not often that hopeful young teams don't make the playoffs and then the following year they're like, we totally get it, and they win the cup. It's important to get there. One other thing that would make me feel much better about this trade is if Brian Boyle wasn't just a rental. Which, I mean, if you look at the team, if you're a pending free agent, wouldn't Toronto be a pretty sweet destination? Like, for the first time in a long time, there's a ton of hope, and you're going to be playing with a ton of talent, and you're not asked to play that huge of a role. Plus, Leaf fans love players like Brian Boyle. Look at some of Leafs fans' favorite players over the last couple decades. Doug Gilmour, Wendell Clark, Darcy Tucker, Gary Roberts. They like hard-nosed guys. Like, geez, I wish Sundin got the love that some of those guys did. But buddy, all you gotta do is just come here and be Brian Boyle, and I think Leaf fans will love you. Oh, big city scary, he played in New York! Now I see tweets like this one from Chris Johnston, and I get a little weary. Okay, well, he's still there at least to help the team with some playoff experience. With, again, the asterisk being, you need to make it first! My camera battery died right after I said that, so hopefully that's not a terrible omen. So how do I feel about the trade? Right now, good. The trade makes the team better right now. That's what I want. But if they swing and miss with this one and they don't make the playoffs, oh, I'm gonna be grumpy. Big man, big expectations. Show me what you got.